Hey guys, I'm delighted to receive Antoine Hubert, the CEO of Ynsect, the world's largest insect farming startup based out of France. They were founded in 2011, and today they count more than 230 employees. They have raised more than 450 million euros, which is half of all the investment made in the insect farming sector to date. They are considered the first climate tech unicorn out of France, and the only one in the insect farming space globally. I'm super excited to give a mic to Antoine, who isn't doing this kind of interview often. He's such an inspiring entrepreneur and a great human being. Let's try to get as much wisdom as we can from him. Let's go. Antoine, I'm honored to have you on Climate Insiders. Welcome.
Hello, Johan. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be with you today.
Great. Tell us about Ynsect's history. You started it in 2011, raised a monster round in 2021, and now you're off to the races with an expansion in the US and going all over the map. Can you briefly speak about those 10 years of life and death and the
Yes.
key pivotal moments, maybe?
Yeah, long story short, 10 years, almost 11 years journey. We started with my three other co-founders, Jean-Gabriel, Fabrice, and Alexis, in Paris, convinced that Ynsect will play a critical role in our food chains and being part of the food chain sustainability. So this is what we built, Ynsect. We say we reinvent the food chain, and food chain means that we have products with insects that are embracing all this chain from the soil, how we feed the microorganism in the soil, but also the plants, the farmed animals, fish, poultry, pigs, the pets. We have home, cats, dogs, birds, until the humans. So like the microorganism of the soil to the microbiome in our gut as humans. So that's the full continuum of products we deliver from insects we farm in our vertical farm, and we farm beetles. So in 10, 11 years, what happened? So we took first year of research innovation, took a while to find a good insect, and we selected mealworms, beetles, as we found the most interesting one in terms of product quality, benefits for plants, animals, and humans, and also the scalability of the model, how to farm it in a competitive way with the technology. And as they were not jumping and non-flying, we got also a lot of interest from this species over time. So it was the first step, having the early days, 2011 to 2013. 14 with the first fundraising happening with Demeter early 2014, and then we started to scale a bit more from the lab to a small prototype, a bigger prototype, till a demo plant, which was gathering all the technology in the single place in Burgundy. So this vertical farm where we farm the beetle and we process them into ingredients. We started to deliver our first customers late 16, so like 5 years-ish ago, a pet food company who is still a customer today. So that was another pivotal moment, started really to deliver customers with our products. And then we grew this demo plant. In between, we had the second fundraising with Climentum Capital in Singapore, then with Eco Technology, BPI also, late 16, to run the plant, to be able to deliver more customers, get offtake contracts, and it was successful. Today we have 150 million contracted revenue, mainly from this because of the products we have been delivering from this small site, and also since with the other site we acquired last year, a company called Protifarm, who was the largest company after us in the mealworm, I would say, segment. So we add up another site in Netherlands to increase the delivery of our customers. In between, with the success of this site in Burgundy, we could start to engineer the next phase, which was having a farm at scale. And this farm at scale is what is now almost ready, and which is being commissioned today and to start by the end of the year with Ynsect, which is in Amiens. So the flagship plant with this one will be fully profitable. The largest plant you can imagine on Ynsect in the world, because it's almost 40,000 square meters and 40 meters high, roughly. So it's a pretty impressive one, and the scaling of the technology we had in Burgundy similar to what we have in the Netherlands too, but with an improved efficiency and from all the learnings we got on the way. So now we have this big one there. We have this contracted revenue that goes beyond what Amiens can deliver in the next 2 or 3 years. So we are now also working on what's next, and we need to develop further farms, at least 1, 2, to deliver this increased demand that even this big site is not able to address because already fully saturated. So from innovation to industrialization and now internationalization, that was, I would say, the 3 main steps over the past 10 years or so.
Wow, so it definitely kept you busy. So now you're building full stack factories that are fully automated, right? From insect reproduction to sterilization, sorting, and packaging. It sort of looks like the Tesla Gigafactory that they just opened in Texas, right? The Giga Texas. And what are some of the biggest challenges building those factories? Do we even still know how to do that in Europe?
I think it's when we started, there were 3 bottlenecks. One was about commercial traction, one was about regulatory, and of course one about technology. So we took a while to prove the quality of our products and why they were good, and that we have benefits on the animal health, plant health, human health also. And it's not just also about proteins, it's the quality of these proteins, what they bring to the plants and animals and humans' metabolism. And that took a while to get to this 150 million contracted revenue. We built also with a few colleagues and competitors in the area, farming mealworms, but also flies or crickets. We gathered joint forces with a lobbying group in Brussels, and that helped to the Commission to shape the regulatory framework for insects. Nothing was prepared there at this time. Nobody thought about insects in the past. So we helped the Commission and the structure, and now you can sell insects for plants, for farm animals, for pets, and also for humans. So it was the second, I would say, issue has been cleared, and the last one, technology, indeed. Actually, in Europe, you have a lot of engineering companies, technological companies, I would say, manufacturing experience. US has been way more on digital development in startups, and Tesla and SpaceX are quite particular ones, I would say. They have also, relied on some other experiences and knowledge, like from Panasonic for their JV and other also partners. So I think in Europe we are, I think, in a good place to develop manufacturing businesses as we do at Ynsect. It's not easy because also that we can discuss that the depth of the capital market is pretty low. People are way more eager to invest in capital light businesses, which is softwares and others. But we know for the transition that you can change consumer behaviors with platforms and digital tools. You can improve the supply chain with digital tools, but you need to change also what is in the pipe of the supply chain, what is the matter inside, whatever the energy, the food, the materials. So digital will help to optimize supply chain and consumption, but you need to change how you generate these goods. Otherwise, we will never reach the 1.5 degrees target. We will degrade even more the biodiversity. I will say the global biodiversity on land, on the water, on the air. So we need to do something, and that's more complicated because it requires more capital in the early days of the company, pre-large revenues compared to digital platforms. And that's the main thing, and I don't think it's more advanced in the US than Europe or Asia. It depends. Tesla and SpaceX are specific cases with big support from the states. We need to be aware of that. Obama supported without 400 million of Obama administration, and the Tesla wouldn't be there in the early days. Without all the orders from the NASA, SpaceX wouldn't be there. So when you see what BPI is doing in France, some people say they do too much. When you look at what happened in the US, no, actually they should do even more. And it's the same for Europe, the European Investment Fund, the EIB and others. If we want to create global champions, especially in manufacturing or life sciences, something which are pretty complex, it requires more capital than digital space.
Right. No, that's a good point. Definitely subsidies, also venture capital funds have a key role to play. Could you paint us a picture of the insect farming landscape in Europe, just to get a sense of the level of competition today and what's going on from your chair?
I think there are about hundreds of companies farming insect in the world. Europe has the largest, I would say, share of it. I think for different reasons, because Europe was so far till, I think, the most dependent with Asia in terms of protein production, protein dependency. So 10 years, we speak today about protein, of food sovereignty, energy sovereignty. 10 years, 12 years ago, we spoke about protein independency. So it's the same thing. Europe is importing 50 to 70% of this protein needs from South America, from soy, fish meal from the small fish from the oceans, milk also proteins from North America. So we are highly dependent. This is why also in the early days, even before our first funding round, we got subsidies from the States and later on from Europe because there were some call for tenders from research frameworks supporting initiatives to develop local proteins because it's a geostrategic topic important for Europe to be less dependent. Yeah. So we are part of this answer, and this is why also regulation evolves quickly. I would say in a couple of years, not so fast, but still for Europe pretty fast, because it's an important tool for Europe to be less dependent. So they were also already anticipating this, and when you see COVID and the Ukraine war, it's even more important to be able to do way more of your food production within Europe, like for the energy sector. So this is what happened in the past, and explain why Europe is leading, I would say, the segment, and with the regulatory framework in place, the most advanced one in the world. Then you have more visibility, investor can pour money, and you have the most advanced insect companies in the world. We are clearly ahead in the mealworm farming. You have 3 other players leading in the fly segment, like Protix. You have also Antera, you have Innovafeed, and a few others. And on crickets, there is a Canadian company on crickets, no less in Europe, but still in total companies, really Europe leading. And now in terms of funding on and IP also, IPs they are leading that.
And IP, and we'll come back to it and why you have been so heavy on IP and patent protection. I wanted to double click on what you just said, right? We definitely have a deficit of protein, right? And we are externally sourcing it. And yet you are primarily producing mealworms for fish. It's a feed for fish and potentially animals, but not for humans yet. The real question is, can you feed those insect-based protein to humans soon, anytime soon, and we'll have the same nutrient-rich profile as equivalents today?
Actually, we are. Since the acquisition of Protifarm last year, we are on market for food. Okay. So we are really delivering nutrient ingredients for plants. For farmed animals, today it's fish and growing to chicken and pigs. Pets is pretty big for us. Cats, dogs, and birds at home is pretty big. And pet food is really close to human food. Same kind of, I would say, similar marketing, but also similar food safety rules. Very stringent on the quality of the product. And this is why from pet food to human food, there was a small, I would say, step. And with the acquisition of Protifarm, it accelerated us in this market. So today we are, I think, the largest supplier of insect ingredients in Europe, and I think even in the world on this segment, because it's pretty small at this stage. It's still small in our portfolio compared to fish, pets, and plants. But we have big, I would say, big hope there. The products are excellent. We, as for everything, we do science with independent in universities testing the products. We could prove in the past that we can fully replace fish meal to feed fish, and fish are going better, faster, in better health. With same with the plants, we can replace chemical fertilizer with our organic fertilizer, with better yield, also better microbiota in the soil, so better biodiversity in the soil. Same for pets, we can replace chicken offals and with better palatability and also hypoallergenic benefits. And finally, on humans, we benchmarked it mainly towards milk, which is the golden standard. And few research published recently showed you can fully replace milk with our product. It's on humans, on real humans, on 30 people. It was digested as fast as milk and generating as fast muscles than milk. And even when the people were doing sports, the regeneration of muscle was even faster. So that's one example. We could replace also in a preclinical trial in mice as human model, mice feeding milk or insect feed. Better growth, I would say, but also reduction of cholesterol and fat also accumulation in the
a ton of
mice.
benefits.
So there's a lot of benefits, and so the nutritional benefits are great, the digestibility, nutrition profile, but also some health benefits. So we are big believers in human food. It's small today, it's not the core focus, but it will take off, and we are preparing this because it will take off in a couple of years.
That's good to know. And looking at today, right, from today's perspective, the real technical hurdle in that insect farming space seems to be to monitor and accelerate the reproduction of insects. Is that correct?
Oh, the technology was one is about reproduction. I think is one indeed, because able to generate good quantities and quality of eggs is an important one for any animals. But the same for the plants. Being able to, when you masterize how the seed productions is a critical part of the life stage. So yes, reproduction is critical. I think now we have been able to develop the growth stage from baby larvae to the big larvae that are processed into products with automation, where designing a vertical farm with an efficient HVAC, so the systems that generate, manage the air system, how you cool down the farm or heat the farm, bring oxygen, remove the carbon dioxide in this vertical farm. Was a complex one, so we have been through also these technological hurdles, and the processing also still was how to separate and make the best of the insect, the different streams. How can I do the improve the quality of the proteins, the yield of separation with the oil and the proteins? What can I do also aside as the side streams? So still a lot of research happened there to increase value. But overall, I would say everything and masterizing all this pipe together, which no other industry is doing. You don't find it, you don't see in a single place eggs, laying hens, eggs hatching place with from the baby chicks to the chicken, and then the slaughterhouse, and then the processing to the fillets of chicken. You never see that in the single place. We do all of that in the single place in different warehouses, but all together. And that has been finally a complex one to manage this internal supply chain, because in terms of software management and production, following the production, when you deliver the customers with final goods, ingredients, you need to have all the traceability and follow everything from the eggs. So we have all this, the ERP follow everything, eggs to ingredients, and no other players do that in any other, we'll say, industry. So that's also one complexity of our model.
It speaks to the defensibility of your model and why something that looks like very capital intensive up front, it takes hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions to reach that scale. But then it becomes defensible towards the rest of the startup landscape, but also to food giants that cannot today outperform with their enormous production capacity, because there is huge complexity to entry. And I read that Ynsect is filing more patents. It's filing at a ridiculous rate. You're in the top 10 of all companies across all sectors in France. Is that the secret of your speed and of your success?
Top 10 of the, I think, the younger companies, because then you don't count, I think, Peugeot and other companies.
The huge conglomerates.
Conglomerates, but we are in the top 10 there, and we are the first in the insect portfolio, and we are 350-ish now patents filed in the world, which is half of the total insect portfolio. So if you look to all the other guys, so it highlights indeed the investment we've made in IP, because it's a good way to protect your innovation, and we have innovated a lot on all this food, the chain I mentioned before. So it's a good thing today, because tomorrow it's a good defense, and also a good it's attractive to other companies, and we are discussing joint venture models tomorrow. maybe franchising the model. If you have the IP, then you are good and strong, and it's attractive for partners compared to company without IP. If we want to deploy the model and make a very big impact for climate and biodiversity, we will anyway need to rely on existing infrastructures, existing companies that can boost with their own supply chain the adoption and more the deployment of further units with their also own capital, own infrastructure, etc. So having the IP will help to leverage that.
Yeah, let's talk about expansion. And this is one way through IP, another way through geographical expansion. And you recently announced a deployment of a farm in the US. Why did you pick the US over other European nations? And is this your strategy to absorb large market share globally, to plant the flag and then build farms?
Yeah. We acquire a smaller company than Protifarm, so a company called Jord, because indeed they were active in a small market, but a very good niche, which is the chicken feed, the premium chicken feed market in the US. That was really attractive to us. Plus, they were in the US. Beyond that, in the Midwest, which we think will be a key area for development in the future. We are discussing with different partners and players there. I think it makes sense to be there at some point. So we have also a different project in the pipeline in terms of location. And as we are a small company, we cannot handle and be anywhere, everywhere in the same time. But for sure, we will be there. The US are the largest ag countries in the world, also the most advanced financial place. So it makes sense to be present there somehow in terms of sales, in terms of production. I think it makes a lot of sense to be there. So Europe, by France is in the top 5, Netherlands too, in terms of agriculture and food. But the US is number 1. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be there. In terms of science, the research in France, in RAE, AgroParisTech is one in the top 3, with Wageningen in Netherlands, and with a university like UC Davis in the US, that you have also the best science and the best training centers also for engineers and technicians in the food space.
Here, let's wave our flags. Hi. I'm curious now how you prepared your company for this international expansion and growth in general. What structural shift did you have to make internally? Did you have to hire certain roles to enable growth, or did you have to instill the hunger for growth in your trenches? How did you make that happen?
The company moved from a pure R&D centric, which was critical at the beginning, to a multi-centric, I would say, company with the sales coming, the finance, the operation, engineering and operation, of course, because we had to not only to develop the Burgundy small site and then the big site in France, in Amiens, and then for growth, indeed, we built a development team. And we brought very great people there. We have Shankar Krishnamurti, who was at the executive committee of NG, who joined then a year ago after NG. He used to deploy dozens of billions of capital, I would say, in the expenditures in the energy sector and in Europe, in Middle East, in Asia. So he has the habits and what needs to be done in terms of process to deploy capital for factories. And few other people joined, some of ex-colleagues and others that are really keen that with experience for other French, Belgium, Canadian, having this kind of support. British also, where we have this kind of we grew the team basically, and that was supporting me to the executive level, to also some experts in different area, to be able to manage the growth and a pipeline of new projects. So now we have 2 pipelines: the pipeline of customers for our products and the pipeline of to locate further projects, and alone, as standalone, or with partners, and to share the investment in this further new farms.
Now, you've reached a point, right, of inflection. Every startup founder wants to reach that point. It's much harder than it sounds. I'm sure there's been a few setbacks. What are some of the biggest learnings, positives or negatives, from the last 3 years trying to scale that production? Anything that you now know that you wish you had known 3 years ago?
Manufacturing is very complex, especially when you do it during COVID. I mean, you could have easier time than COVID. that increase the difficulties from availability of supplier, availability of raw material for something that has never been done. So the flexibility of the suppliers and their adaptability in a very tense time was not easy. I think it's something that we have learned, and hopefully it will be better in the future, but we don't know. COVID is still there. You have a war now, so you have turbulences after turbulences. So we need to live in this kind of world that could be that is like this. So at least we have been trained in this difficult environment, and to be able to manage multi suppliers. It's almost 300 suppliers are for Amiens, so it's a lot to manage. We relied a lot on experts also at some point externally, and before hiring, internally progressively. So I think we could have internalized faster some key aspects of the business and the skills and knowledge than relying on consulting firms on some technical aspects. That was also a big learning, and also to hire faster, always hire faster than you think, because when you manage growth, at some point it goes always faster than what you think. So anticipate more also your recruitment. Well. But indeed, you need to do good points, not too fast, but still often it's not fast enough, and then you struggle the time to get
growing
the people
pains,
and organize and bringing and evolve the organization with all the team and the culture that evolves for that. And the fact that you get multicultural also was a big challenge, from pure French with Dutch, with Americans, and with a lot of other nationalities, as I mentioned, was something.
And we know how the French like to keep it local.
Yeah, no, it was not easy, and to manage expectations on the different on the different parts, even though our R&D was already pretty multinational with almost 20 nationalities. Yes, it was not the case everywhere, and we learned a lot on how we build together with other nationalities a common goal, common practices, common culture. So big learnings there.
Nice. All right, I wanted to take a step back and then feed the community and their hunger for insights. And you've said that there's a taboo of money still in Europe, and I would probably abide by this point. You and I are a new breed of entrepreneurs and investors, and we're trying to reconcile activism and business, which have been antagonical so far. And for that, we need to leave that taboo around money for impact startups. Can you elaborate?
Sure, I think it's an important topic. We find ourselves when we think we are indeed activists, because we are shipping the new lines, and we will not be able to make the world we need only with politicians, only with scientists, only with NGOs and large corporates. I mean, you need technology to address the different big challenges, and disruptive technology generally comes with newcomers. It has been the case with the first industrial revolution, the second industrial revolution, the third one. You have new players coming and create new markets, and the other previous ones are following if they manage, or disappearing. So I think most of the now stakeholders understand that. The US was the first. You have Israel with its big startup nation, Sweden, of course, UK, Germany was more advanced than France. And in the past 10 years, we could see the shift in France from just a few initiatives and few successes like Price Minister and then later Criteo. And then in the past 5 years, an acceleration through this French tech label, and the structuration at French level with BPI, who poured money in funds of funds, and to feed this pyramid of innovation that is critical, and helping, and then other funds to come, and then at some point entrepreneurs to get successful and sell their companies and reinvest with their own fund, as mentioning. Prime Minister also, Pierre Kosciusko-Morizet, could reinvest with his own fund and to the community. So this is what happened in the Silicon Valley. The best funds are eventually entrepreneurs' funds. in a way that because they are really performing and they understand the business, but I think we need a mix. We need a public fund, we need corporate funds, entrepreneur funds, and today is still a bit not as balanced like that. And explaining and showing to the French community, European community, I think as the government try to do, it's not startup, it's not just fun stuff, it's create jobs. I think a few months ago, before the elections, it was like 20,000 jobs to be filled up by to be recruited by the French tech companies. So it starts to be significant at the country level in terms of attractiveness for the young generation and just employees that they could come not go only to corporates and not go only to the state agencies, but also think about smaller companies. And that needs indeed money to grow, and there is no taboo there, and we need to explain. And this is something we need to show that makes sense for the state to invest. And you have loss on the way. You have this Darwinian process. You have companies that will not succeed, but because they don't succeed, also it's explained. It shows to the other how to succeed, and it's like this that an ecosystem evolves positively. So
That's right. We've definitely seen that in Silicon Valley. I was part of it. We've spoken in previous episodes about the critical need to create a liquid capital market and for money to be recycled from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. I wanted also to touch on the second part of that taboo, money, and the connection between activism, positive impact, and capital. Did you succeed at Ynsect aligning all your stakeholders? The investors that are looking for a financial return, but also the desire to drive enormous impact and to have a virtuous model.
That's the philosophy of the company. This is how we funded it, to show that we can align business and ecology and good for the people. And actually, everything has been. I try to summarize it with a colleague journalist, Laurent, in this book, For the Planet, People and Profit. So it's a manifesto going from with the story of Ynsect and everything we were discussing about, also the taboo of money till how you make an impact, how you do it. We are a B Corp company. Every year we improved our score, B Corp score. We could create, I would say, value growth for our investors. Some of them could sell some of their shares with an improvement of valuation, so they gain. There we have customers, they deliver with good products, and they can switch to this kind of new materials compared to others and improve their sustainability, improve the product quality they have. Of course, we have our team, and we try to build one of the best places to work with different social innovation, from people being shareholder of the company. We have a shareholding holding. We raised the minimum wage 35% to 25,000 euros for all many operators in the plant. That is a big change from 18 to 25. Makes a big change for people at this level. We pay the paternity leave of 10 weeks for the fathers or the second parents. As long as mothers, so it's rebalance also the life between men and women, also at home and at work, in terms of access to promotion, evolution in the company. We really signed recently with other next 40 companies and leading startups this commitment to improve even more parity, gender equality, also within the tech sector, and that's an example promoting that.
You've advocated, so to clarify, you've advocated the rest of the next 40 companies to align their incentives.
So we have committed to different stuff like deploying like spokespersons that are also men and women, training the people to no BS in terms of managing, so in management or in recruitment. Also improving again the paternity leave when possible for companies. So there are a lot, and you can find them on the next 40 announcement was a few days ago with the French tech.
Okay.
How we try to improve indeed the gender equality. It was a call from a lot of CEO of the next 40. But a lot of things we've done internally to improve also I would say the working conditions. So you see, you can be good for the shareholders, good for the customers, good for your people, and of course, good for the planet. We have products that are suitable and good for the planet. It's measured. Everything is measured in our company with KPI. We do life cycle assessments. Each product is measured compared to benchmark, and the gain in carbon, the gain in water, the gains in biodiversity we have. Compared to beef, for if it's human food, or to milk, compared to fish meal for feeding plants, compared to chemical fertilizers, and we could prove that it's saving tons of carbon, like 200 times less on beef compared to in human food. This is same for the chemical fertilizer. We are with our fertilizer a real carbon sink. So we are not only lower, but we are absorbing carbon back in the soil, into the soil. So all these elements, prove you can be good for the planet, good for the people, and good for the profit and valuation for the shareholders.
Absolutely, and it's good that you're showing the way. And by the way, we're going to link everything in the show note. Your book, that is very inspiring. The next 4D announcement.
And it's nothing for me, because all the royalties goes to the United Nations for refugees. The purpose initially was to help climate migrants. But as you know now, the UNHCR is highly involved with the Ukrainian war, so it's also a way to give some help to the people there.
Another way to support is to open source as much as you can, because you have reached a critical size. It's not the case of the 99% of founders out there that are probably listening. They would love to get inspired from how you measure things, how you align incentives, how you create gender equality internally. Anything you can share is super helpful, and we will make sure to link productive and helpful insights in the show notes. Another taboo that you've spoken about, I wanted to come back to, is the taboo of industrialization. The fact that especially in the agri-food sector, it is necessary to lift that taboo around industrialization. Over the last 4 decades, we've rejected the industrial model and exported it all to China. How do we fix that now? Since you're hands-on on trying to reindustrialize France, but also Europe, give us a reality check. How difficult is it?
No, it is difficult, because still, indeed, we lost some. No, even if we have good knowledge in Europe, we lost a lot with this export of production in China and or East Europe, Far East Europe. And I think if we want to address the biggest challenges of this time on climate and others, you need to build locally. You cannot do for everything, but we can do for more, for renewable local energy, to rely less on natural gas from Russia, local proteins, to rely less on South American, I would say, soy, which is leading to deforestation. You can generate local fertilizer to avoid, again, the fertilizer from Russia and others. And same for the microchips and the different political also acts being implemented by the European Union to be less dependent. But we will need a lot of capital to build all these factories in Europe, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of people. But it's good for employment. I think if we are this level of unemployment in France compared to Germany is also because of the difference of manufacturing, I would say, ecosystem. Especially, there were so many big factories around the cities, and then they stopped, and a lot of people within the suburbs lost their jobs. And also maybe if you see the French suburbs that are a bit unstable sometimes, but then it's also the reason if the level of unemployment is really high, and if the people could have jobs, and the industry needs to go back, and it will be really a massive support to reduce the carbon footprints by producing locally with less, instead of externalizing your footprint to China, you do it locally with the most advanced technologies. If you bring it back to Europe and France, anyway, it has to be highly technical, high tech, because the labor is more expensive than in China or in Thailand or in Vietnam or Bangladesh. So you need to be more high tech. So higher technologies, but at least you can do it here in a profitable way, and it's creating jobs that you lost in the past 40 years. And when you look at the screens and the TVs, the people are always speaking politicians of the past 40 years. One of the biggest difference in the past 40 years is the erosion and the disappearance of the manufacturing world. You can read also could recommend the last book by Nicolas Dufour for the boss of BPI, just wrote a book about this collapse of the manufacturing world in France from the 90s to today. So that's it. But there's everything now there to rebuild it. And we have the network of engineers. It could give a lot of jobs to a lot of people. And manufacturing is not the old factories of the 19th centuries or early 20th centuries, dirty, dangerous, and with bad salaries. No, the average wage are higher than the average wage in France, higher than in services. The jobs now, the factories are so clean, you can eat on the ground, and also it's way less painful because mainly is automated. So, and what was Nicolas Dufour was saying, what I found a good experience, instead of sitting at your office
and
not good for your health, etc. In the factories, you move, you act with your arms, you act with your
and you have screens
legs,
everywhere, anyways.
And you have small screens, but it's like a gamification. So it's like you have your phone, and you do your social networks and Instagrams and others, other too, or TikTok and others, and you find the similar, or say softwares. Professional softwares for the company, so the young generation is not lost. I mean, they are used very much. So you have this gamification that goes, and that makes also attractive. So it's not boring. Again, you move, you try, you are in a plant, you have the connection with the others. You don't, you are not weight left using a lot of manual activities because of automation. So it should be more attractive. We should spend way more time to advert in terms for the jobs there, and it's everywhere in France. It's not only in Paris, on Paris. It's on all the territory. A lot is happening north of France where we are, but I'll see a lot in Brittany, in the east, in the southwest, also happening in the east. So this is really exciting, and people need to think way more. For the young generation now in the study need to think way more that this could be a great opportunity, and they could contribute by joining these companies to the new, and I will say the new economy that will be, I will say, more compatible with the planet boundaries, with the gigafactories that is happening north for batteries, and what we do, and other for new green materials and everything. It's everyone has a place there.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, thanks for pointing that out. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs available. I get asked every week, how do I penetrate climate tech? How do I align my career with my values? And that's practically what we're trying to do. You as an entrepreneur, we invest in positive, climate positive companies. And I've actually assembled the resources to the guide to the job boards, but also giving techniques for people to transition their career away from corporate and bullshit jobs into meaningful and value-oriented jobs.
Purpose-driven, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Antoine. Your trajectory as a person, but also as a company, is hugely inspiring. And I want to thank you for coming on the show, sharing all you do.
Thank you, Yuan. It was great to chat today. Hopefully, it was useful. And if we could convince a few young guys that they could create a company, make a difference, or others to join this kind of companies, we will have win there.
Yes. All right. Ciao. Thanks, Antoine, and to all of you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Yuan. Thank you. Bye.